What's up everyone? John Brenton from Techno Buffalo here with the full review for you of the largest phone Apple's ever made or the smallest tablet they ever put out on the market. It is Apple's iPhone 6 Plus. Let's go ahead and see if it's worth your smartphone buying dollar. As I do with all of my reviews, let me give a disclaimer. I use this as my daily driver for 11 days in Southern California on T-Mobile service. If you want to hear a little bit more about things I'm going to talk about, if you want to see camera samples, you want to see video samples, check out our written review. The link to it will be right down below. So I review phones pretty much every week here at Techno Buffalo, but an iPhone is a bit unique. Apple isn't like any other smartphone maker out there. It doesn't create and launch several smartphone models throughout the year. Instead, once per year, with great fanfare, Apple announces the new devices that it's going to sell for the entire next 12 months. That's it. It takes one shot a year, sits back, and focuses on the next project on the table. Still, despite that approach, though, it does manage to go toe-to-toe with the Android makers that fire off several rounds each year. Hit or miss, though, it's one device, well, in this case, two per year. The strategy has worked obviously so far for Apple. They sold 10 million iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus units the first weekend the devices launched. This year we presented with the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. We'll get into the 6 in a separate video, but for this one, it's all about the Big Daddy. So I've been pretty critical of Apple in recent years for keeping its devices so diminutive. Now that the 5.5-inch iPhone is here, is it what everyone was expecting? The answer is a very complicated yes and no. So let's first talk about the size. It's still strange to me to see an iPhone this big. It's not bad, it's just weird. Every time I pick it up, I'm reminded that it's something new. Despite what Steve Jobs might have said, Apple needed bigger phones. It had to go bigger. A company that used to lead is now quickly trying to play catch up, which itself is kind of funny since they still sell absolutely millions of devices. The phone is definitely larger though than most 5.5-inch devices due to its gigantic top and bottom bezels. I get the bottom one is necessary for the Touch ID and home button combo, but compared to the G3, which has the same screen size, the 6 Plus is almost 3/4 of an inch longer. That's huge. I got pretty large mitts. I can palm a basketball without any problem, and I've been using big phones since the original Note, so its size wasn't a shock to me at all. But if you've been an iPhone user for years, you're coming from maybe the 5 or the 5S generation or the 4, 4S phones, definitely go to a store first. You begin for a gigantic surprise. It'll fit into normal dude pants without any issues, so I wouldn't really sweat that one too much. On the design front, I really feel like Apple totally filmed this one in. It's crazy thin at 7.1 millimeters. The engineers did a killer job, but seriously, those antenna bands and the protruding camera ring, neither really seem to be up to Apple's design standard or the standard that they're known for. Pro tip though, the space gray model that I've got right here hides the antenna bands the best. Alright, so let's talk about the screen. Apple finally updated the resolution of the Retina displays with the Retina HD panels. In the case of the iPhone 6 Plus, that finally means True HD at 1920 by 1080 for a finally improved 401 ppi. Apple used to have the best displays hands down. Whenever I used to do a versus, Apple would win this one by a landslide. It wasn't even close back when the Retina display first came out. While Apple hasn't really done much, Samsung's been making incredible AMOLED displays, LG's putting 2K displays on phones, and even a startup like OnePlus has a gorgeous 1080p screen. The 6 Plus screen looks great. Colors are bright and vibrant, blacks are dark and rich. It has a really good viewing angle and surprisingly viewable in direct sunlight, all of which are wonderful and great and all those other descriptive words, but they're now also pretty much true on almost every phone display out there. While the screen is good though, nothing sets it apart, really aside from the kind of sleek bit of curve on the front that makes swiping super smooth, but if you use a case, then you just kiss that goodbye anyway. Let's talk about the hardware. iPhones have never really been about specs, more about the user experience. The upgraded A processor certainly whizzes around. There's no stuttering, except for a couple of apps, but that's just in the app side. They're still a little bit buggy. Let me get this one out of the way just quickly because I know it's going to be a topic in the comments, and the bending issue. If you take any phone and you put enough pressure and torque on it, it's going to bend. If you put this thing in your pocket, you wear tight pants, the phone is not going to bend. Don't worry about it. It's been blown way, 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 way out of proportion. Don't sweat it. If you really are especially nervous about it, put a case on and problem solved. You will be fine. Bendgate is not a thing you need to worry about. I will say that I'm looking forward to trying Apple Pay, but as of this filming on October 1st, it's not yet available. On the software side, iOS 8 is fine. I like the new Today Screen widgets. Third-party keyboards are nice. The Health app is slick, but aside from that, there really isn't that much new here. We've covered iOS 8 really extensively, but it's here. I will say though, with the iOS 8.0.1 debacle, it's really tough to feel super excited about iOS. I used to, without hesitation, update as soon as one appeared. Now though, whenever a new one shows up, I'm going to be checking reports to see if it breaks anything. And I know I'm not the only one here. So that protruding camera ring is hiding a camera underneath it. Now, Apple added one feature to the iPhone 6 Plus that's not in the iPhone 6. A lot's been talked about it. It is camera optical image stabilization. This feature is particularly useful if you're filming a video and you're actually moving in the object. Or maybe you're riding a bike and want to film steady video, or maybe you just had too much coffee and your hands are shaky. OIS can help offset all sorts of problems, particularly taking photos at night. We found that it did an incredible job in low light shots. Apple also added some really amazing features like time-lapse and super slow motion video, recorded to 240 frames per second, twice the rate of the 120 FPS recorded by the iPhone 5S. It just makes everything fun, from tossing a napkin in the air to walking through groups of pigeons, even dropping a pastry on the table like your own Untitled liked to do. Everything is just kind of more fun at 240 frames per second. I will say though, I found myself reaching for the 6 Plus when I wanted to take pictures over my Sony RX100, which says quite a bit because I love that camera. Todd has a bit more on the camera, but the moral here is, yeah, it's still 8 megapixel. The added focus pixels and OIS make for a better camera experience than we had before. It's still one of the best camera phones around. So, thin phone, big screen, you might be worried about battery life. It's been absolutely awesome. That is, after the first few days. You get a new phone, don't judge battery life based on your first few days. I had to plug this thing in by about 4 o'clock on my first day because I was on it just so much. 3 or 4 days later, when I started using it as I do a regular phone, I was easily able to get through a whole day with about 50 to 60% of battery life left. I'm a pretty heavy user on it. I don't do any sort of auto brightness. I keep it set about 75%. I have about 2 emails being pulled down every 5 minutes, a lot of social media, a lot of iMessage, video watching, phone calls going on. I take it off the charger around 7:30, plug it back in maybe around 10 or 11. I could easily get through 2 days with this guy. If I just turn my screen down, which uses about 60% of my battery, I could probably even make it to 2.5 to 3 days. Some other tidbits about the phone: adding 802.11 AC is absolutely awesome. I really like testing this guy on T-Mobile, and I like having Wi-Fi calling, although I never got the handoff to work to cellular. I was not a big fan of Touch ID on the 5S, never really worked that well for me, but it works way better here on the 6 Plus. In fact, it's working almost 80% of the time, which is better than the kind of 50 to 60% that I had on the 5S. I wish, though, that Apple offered more in the 6 Plus to take advantage of that larger screen. It's nice having pictures next to contacts. It's kind of cool having 2 panes in email and extra keyboard controls, but why not multi-window multitasking support, which we know is there in iOS, but maybe they're saving that for next generation iPad. So what does the 6 Plus get? It gets a pretty solid 8.5 on TechnoBuffalo's scale. It and the 6 are the best iPhones ever made. If you're an iOS user, jump in, you're gonna love the improved experience. If you're on the fence, or maybe you're an Android or Windows Phone or BlackBerry user considering switching, try it in store first. You might not like the experience, might not be everything you expected and heard about iPhones. Android and other OSs have gotten really good and really competitive. This is not the blowout that it was 4 or 5 years ago. There are a ton of great phones out there and are available. The iPhone 6 Plus is just one of the many. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. We love technology here. If you do too and you want to see what's next, of course, just hit the big subscribe button down below to get the latest videos from TechnoBuffalo. And we just launched our new Twitch channel, so if you want to see us game, albeit sometimes a little bit horribly, check us out at twitch.tv/TechnoBuffalo.